Amidst everything that happened in 2020, it was actually a pretty exciting year for Sony photographers and videographers. The brand had so many surprises for the loyal users of the brand, to a point where a lot of shifters were actually attracted as well. The first thing that tops that list, of course, is the A7S III. Now, well, it wasn't much of a surprise given that the fact that a lot of people, a lot of videographers, we're actually waiting for it for quite a few years now, and well, to say the least, it didn't disappoint. Of course, next is the Sony A7C. The A7C is one of those things that surprised us in 2020 simply because we were not even expecting a camera, a full frame camera, to be in the form of an APS-C to be released in such a challenging year. Now, of course, another thing is the ZV-1, which is what I'm using right now. It's actually my best friend right now for casual video creation. Now, another surprise that came in 2020 was in the form of, well, a very impressive lens. And of course, I'm talking about none other than the Sony 12-24 f2.8G master lens, which could very well be the king of ultra-wide angle lenses. And today we're going to talk about that. Now, the new Sony 12-24mm f2.8G master, I have to say, is one of the things that really got me hopeful about being able to go out again and shooting, hopefully now in the year 2021. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting such a lens to come so early, but down the line I knew an f2.8 version of the 12-24 was bound to come. And to say the least, it's really more than what I expected it to be. Now, I've worked with a lot of lenses beyond 16mm, 15mm in the past, and first and foremost, I was quite surprised about the size. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still quite a big lens compared to, say, the 24-70 f4 or the 24-105, but for such a lens, given that it does 12 millimeters and it does f2.8, it's really quite small for what I expect it to be. Now, to be honest, I expected a lens like this to be, what, say, over 1 kilogram, maybe 6 or 7 inches long, but this came in at just 847 grams, and it comes at just about 5.3 inches long and just 3.8 inches wide. Now, that's actually a lot less than what I expected it to be. Now, lenses like these in the past would be very heavy and the center of gravity would be up front, which would be a problem when you're using a tripod because it would usually drag down the lens and accidentally pan when you're doing long exposure. Now, at the widest, at 12 millimeters, this gives us an angle of view of 122 degrees, and surprisingly, it also focuses very close at just 0.28 meters. Maybe if you're shooting landscapes with a very close foreground. And of course, being able to go f2.8 at 12 millimeters gives you more room for low light situations. Personally, I tested this shooting very dark landscapes and shooting the night sky, and it was actually very impressive. It gives you more room and without having to crank up ISO and pull up shadows in post-processing. Now, of course, what we're all after with such a highly specialized ultra-wide angle lens is, of course, also what makes it a G Master. Now, it's a G Master because of the optimal sharpness and image quality that it gives. Now, I've tried this a lot outdoors and also indoors shooting interiors, and to say the least, I never found a point wherein I was disappointed with the image quality. If anything, I was blown away. Shooting outdoors with this lens was actually quite remarkable. I went to Laguna and tried shooting one of the many waterfalls found in the province, and it was quite a remarkable experience. For one, aside from the fact that it gives me such a unique angle of view encompassing almost the entire facade. It also gave me very, very good details, not just in the foreground but also in the background, to the point that the foliage in the back was tack sharp. Now, given that, shooting architecture outdoors, well, it was a walk in the park. It was very easy because it was much easier with a controlled environment, and it gave me very, very good details of the buildings that I was shooting. Now, one of the most remarkable experiences I've had shooting with this lens was, well, I imposed a challenge on myself to actually do this shoot. I went to Pampanga, a district called Betis. If you know Betis Church or Santiago Apostol Parish Church, you would know that this is a very iconic church with very intricate details in the ceilings and, well, technically the whole church. It was built in the 1700s, but was later designed to be what is called to be the Sistine Chapel of the Philippines. And I wanted to really capture the details of all the paintings in the ceiling. Of course, the Sony 12-24G Master performed remarkably, rendering impeccable detail across all corners of the frame. What was surprising was actually that even at 12 millimeters to capture the entire ceiling, distortion was very, very minimal. I'm able to create a very, very long panorama of almost 85% of the entire length of this big church. Now that was quite a fulfilling shooting experience altogether. First, because I came up with really, really detailed images, and of course I was able to document something that is part of Philippine history and the culture and heritage of the place. Now, another thing that actually surprised me was how well the weather sealing was. Now, it's actually very durable. Going back to the shoot in Laguna, I remember being quite careless about all the water that was spraying all over the place, and I wasn't worrying about getting the lens too wet or the camera too wet, simply because I had trust in the weather sealing. And if you could see these behind the scenes photos, then you would see just how wet things got and how close I was to the flowing water and close to the ground, and everything that could have destroyed anything that wasn't prepared for such a shoot. Now, of course, there's so much more that this lens can offer. Off the bat, for me, this was perfect for my landscapes. This was perfect for my architecture work. I'm excited to shoot more interiors in the coming months. This lens would also offer very unique perspectives in video, and also being able to capture up close some very nice moments in action in events and even sports. Overall, I'm so much impressed with the Sony 12-24mm G Master. Now, of course, I think it came in the perfect size, in the perfect length. It does very, very well with the kind of photography that I do, and it also offers a lot more beyond my genre. And of course, the quality lives up to the G Master name. It's a highly specialized ultra-wide angle lens for highly specialized shooting. I'm excited to be shooting more with this lens in the coming months, and I'll be sharing more of my photos and maybe a few more videos about this. But if you have any questions, any suggestions or requests, just leave them down below and I'll get to you. Thanks for watching.